What day do we got?
Ninth.
May 9th meeting of the Village of Cold Spring Planning Board. Members present are members Myers and Lara, I kind of told like young.
Shihab Eldon.
Shihab Eldon.
It's okay.
What was I just reading? Member Hawkins will be here shortly, but we'll get started. Correspondence, the only correspondence we have is in support of 15 Main. We'll read that into the record when we do 15 Main. One thing that I'd like to do is make a motion to add, is Shay? Shay Sellers, yeah. Relative to a potential application for 37 Fair Street, I'd like to make a motion to add her to the agenda. She'd like to give us just a little bit of an overview about what her client is thinking of doing and which way the board would be leaning. We've had some back and forth discussions on what, it's currently an I-1 property. So I'd like to make a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Anybody in favor?
Yeah.
All in favor? Okay, great. Yeah, come on up. Great.
Sit right here?
Yeah, no, you don't have to sit. Whatever you want. Wherever you're comfortable, yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Shay Sellers. I'm the owner, managing director of Sachery Properties. We're the developer representing our client, Nina Chanel Abney, who is she does very large scale paintings. She is represented by Jack Shaman.
By who?
Jack Shaman,
Okay.
out of Chelsea. She is looking to purchase 37 Fair Street. We have an accepted offer. The contract is at the attorney's office, but we didn't want to sign it yet until we were sure that she can do a live work use there. So she's just looking to have a studio space where she can paint. She does, she uses a lot of spray paint, so she needs a place where she can actually ventilate it. And then a separate space where she can crash if she needs to stay there once in a while. There's no retail use, there's no open commercial use. The only thing she would be doing is if buyers or her representation were to come to visit her, they would come to the studio space to look at some of the work that she's working on. And so we wanted to clarify with the board to make sure that her proposed use, once we put the actual application together, is in compliance with the zoning regulations before we actually sign the contract and possibly lose the deposit. So that's why we're in front of you guys today.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we had spoken, and I had said, obviously I'm one vote on the board. It's not a great idea to just, to even do a whole lot of this in email, but
Right.
obviously wanted to give her some information on, because obviously things move very quickly in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I had said, it's an I-1 property, live work, painting isn't a home occupation. If it were, but we've got some really antiquated home occupations,
Right.
seamstress, milliner.
Okay.
We don't really have kind of gig economy homes. We need to update that, and we
Okay.
probably will.
Okay.
So we have to kind of look at the one thing we always look at, which is the P word, which is parking, and
Which
we
is
discussed
parking,
a little
right.
bit about
Right.
that. A residence requires 2 spaces. I think that since there could be some guest interaction, just to look at the
Yeah,
progress,
right.
I would think 1 or 2 additional spaces.
Okay.
But it seems like there's plenty of space in the back.
There is. Yeah.
And you want to work on the existing footprint. So I personally think it's an excellent adaptive reuse because it's such a large building. The challenges for people to come in and develop it is because last two people that have looked at it, you want to do a brewery
With the parking.
and a tasting room. But then
Yeah.
where do you park? You need
Right.
you need to sell a lot of beer
Right.
to pay the rent.
Right. Well, it's
But
funny
she's
because
using the
her.
space but doesn't need the parking. So that's why I think
Right.
it's a really nice fit
Mhm.
for a challenging building that could be, that could really come back to life.
Right.
How do other people feel about it? Claire?
I think I agree, yeah. I think given the limitations of the site, the
Right.
parking is difficult, and I think just the footprint of the
Mhm.
building would be very
So
conducive.
three parking spaces? Am I hearing that?
I would say look. It's
Yeah.
it's actually going to be at the discretion of the board, and we'd have to look at
Okay,
it.
gotcha.
So it's 2 for a residence,
Okay.
and I would think that since you're not really
Got it.
building a residence, you're building live work in the
Right.
I-1. Residential is allowed in the I-1.
Okay.
Residential use. It's an
Right.
I-1 building, and it's a fairly quiet use. Obviously, she's going to have to deal with the ventilation and the odors, but
Yes.
she's also in the I-1.
Right.
37 Fair.
37.
So she's in the I-1, so I mean, that's, I
Yeah.
mean, that's part of an industrial zone, and
Right.
it's an as of right use.
Okay.
And what's really, like I said, what's really challenging about that building is that it's a lot of square footage,
I know.
but there's no,
Yeah, it's pretty,
What?
it's a lot.
Yeah,
but there's nowhere to park anybody. So
Right.
somebody that needs to work on large scale paintings, I mean, almost, they do say there's I don't know how to say it politely, but a butt for every seat, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's hard to find sometimes, right? Because it's a very large building, and,
It's huge. Yeah.
so I personally would think it's funny, we were talking about parking before, one of the last rows and columns on the table is parking sufficient for the use if it's not really described above, and this is not
Right.
really described above. I personally would think one or two additional, I'd be fine with one, I'd like to see two additional.
Okay.
I mean, the only,
The code has it per, so many square feet of commercial
that-
space, right?
well, no, no, that would be for more like a retail environment
Okay,
or an
right.
office
Yeah,
or
that's what we were
professional.
kind of
But I
clear
think
about.
that it's live work.
Okay, right.
It's not defined as a home occupation, which is not
Mhm.
surprising because our home occupations are so antiquated, but it's clearly a live work space. I discussed it with the village attorney.
Okay.
I said, don't charge me, I don't have escrow yet. I said, I want to talk to you about this, and so he's just like, yeah. So I said, you got it.
Mhm.
Because I said, this is a challenging building for the village, and that's why it's been sitting there, and it could be a fantastic building for
Right.
somebody.
Yeah.
And it would be great for the village to get it, to get it back into use and to, to see the lights on and,
Is the parking for the parking table that you're referring to being like, for square footage, is that specifically for the B districts though? Not for I, or is that for I?
it's use.
Oh, it's just
Yeah.
use?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So in the industrial, obviously you go back to residential, you go
Yeah.
back to the R1 and say 2 spaces, but
Right.
if customers are gonna come and check on the progress of work, say it's
Mhm.
1 or 2
Mhm.
maximum, just that they
Yeah.
have somewhere to park. And I say that only because there's no street parking on Fair Street,
Right.
right? There's really nowhere else to park. There's a municipal lot,
Yeah.
but I think that you could easily provide 1 or 2 extra spaces. I would even be fine with 1. But we'd have to look at
Yeah,
an
of course.
application. This isn't really binding,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna we're not
Yeah.
gonna surprise you later.
So the parking is something that we're flexible on. We just wanted to make sure the actual live work use was in compliance.
Yep.
And then the parking, we can work around that for sure.
But what I'm saying is we're not gonna turn around and say, okay, now we'd like to see 30,
Okay, got
right?
it.
You know what I mean?
Okay, then that's good.
Because it's not gonna
Okay.
be square footage has to do with the density of the use. And so if
Okay.
you set up a big showroom that's got,
Visitors.
1,500 square feet,
Mhm.
right, then you need 10 parking spaces,
Mhm.
right? Because and again, back to our earlier there's the planning engineers that actually come up with this stuff, and parking folks and people that come up with code basically say this is kind of how you do this, right? And so medical space, for example, is
Right.
typically 1 space for every chair in the waiting room
Right.
plus the exam rooms,
Wow.
because there's thought behind it. There's nothing for like what you're doing, and
Okay.
for industrial, it has to do with 1 space per every 1.5 workers, or for shift workers, and then 1 for the guard, and you're not doing that either.
Well,
Is
you have
there-
shift work?
Yeah, well, is there a collaborative, like with large scale painting, sometimes there's like a studio?
So she
Does she have people that collaborate? or
no, so
you work
she
with
mainly
her?
works alone.
Oh, okay.
So in the studio space, it would just be her.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, I said, will you have like people coming and, kind of hanging out a bit, like to see the stuff? And she said, every once in a while, either a buyer or my actual representation will come and look at the progress. She said, that's about it. So she said, in general, I need probably like 2 or 3 spaces. So she was like, I just need to make sure like that's enough for them as well, so.
Was there anything else that you were about to say earlier?
I'm
And
trying to think.
sorry,
No, it's okay.
there's so much I know.
Yeah. No, I think that's about.
That's
I think
it.
that's really
One of the questions on ventilation, just because
Yes,
there is
that's-
a residence right next door.
Yes.
I'm not that familiar with who the occupant is,
Right.
or it doesn't really matter. It's residential,
Mhm.
and given that it's a residential use, I think, and I'm not sure if this is our purview, but
The environmental impact of that, right?
of the process, yeah,
Yeah,
and as long
okay.
as it's properly ventilated
Okay.
with the work and.
We'll
Yeah.
make sure that we in the application, when we get before you guys,
Yeah.
we'll have make sure we write sort of what we propose is, or what we assume is the
To handle
environmental
the odor,
impact
yeah.
of what she's
Yeah.
doing.
Look, I mean, you're
Because-
not, and that's how code's written, right? You
Yes,
have to
right.
deal with, and you have to deal with odors emanating from your
Right.
facility. That's the good news of being in the I-1, is because
Right.
you're gonna do something that has odors, but you're in the I-1.
Right,
Right, if, you know,
Right.
just if you are in the R1, then that's a different, you know, that would be a
Totally different
challenge. So it's
situation.
kind of like, again, that's why there, you know, there really is, you know, one for every
Yeah.
seat, right?
Okay.
But it takes a long time to find them.
The, yeah, if you can, you know, mitigate, if you have a plan to sort of mitigate that, cause you're adjacent to
Yeah, of course.
the R.
Well,
And of
you're-
course,
I mean, you're
and live,
required-
work,
Yeah, it's
you're
like
sort
right
of,
there,
you're also
actually.
like,
Yeah.
It's in everyone's
our eyes.
interest.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, you're required to,
Yes,
you know, and so if the village wanted to handle that, then they could have changed the zoning, they didn't,
okay.
right? They might be looking at doing something now, I think
No,
some
but
sort of mixed use, but.
we would,
You're required to by
make sure
code,
that-
I
yeah,
mean, you
yeah.
can't just vent, you know, noxious fumes and
Right.
odors out of your, in any district anymore.
Yes, no,
Um,
that's,
you know, we're not
makes
allowed
sense.
to kind of open dump anymore.
Right.
So you have to deal with, and then for her own health, I mean, I'm sure she's
Yes.
gonna wanna do it anyway.
yeah,
There's gonna have to be some sort of
Yeah.
ventilation recapture, and I'm sure people that work with spray paints know all about that.
yeah, she does.
'Cause that's
She
not
does. She's
something
very
you wanna
aware
be-
of,
yeah. But, you know, I don't really see any challenges that would keep, you know, again, we're not telling you to buy the property.
Right.
You know, like I said, you know, you don't buy a property based on a conversation with me in an email,
Right,
please.
right, right.
Um,
But we just wanted to, you know, before she actually signed,
Yeah.
I was like, I think we should get in front of you guys before that.
yeah, no,
happens,
again, you're in
because-
the, it's zoned I-1, correct?
Okay, yep,
Yeah.
it is,
You know, and so it is adjacent to residential and business on the other side. The parking, I think, is, you know, to Lara's point too, is that, you know, if there is an assistant or somebody, you know, I think I'd like to see like around 4 spaces, just to kind of
Okay.
say,
okay,
you know, but that's not, you know, you'll show us more and we'll
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
out more, but
Okay.
it's not gonna be a condition, it's not gonna be a case where we're counting square footage and
okay,
saying 1 per 150 or,
okay.
Yeah, but
What's
There's,
that?
there's enough room
Yeah.
definitely in the back,
There's-
yeah.
there's a rear
Yeah,
yard.
there
Yeah.
is.
There's also, isn't there on the side?
Yeah, on the side too, yeah.
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 Totally. There's enough space.
Yeah, no, you should have enough to even do green space too,
Yeah.
which would be great. I mean, that's what's really so, for me, is so interesting about this project, because anything else would just say, okay, I gotta pave every last square inch, right, to fit the cars in. It'd be
Mhm.
amazing if somebody really enjoyed the space, used the space, but still have some green space and only have to do, you know, 4 parking spaces and,
Yeah, okay.
you know, and then kind of clean the lot up, because it's been an industrial use. It was I think the last was like, it was car auto repair.
Yeah, auto repair.
You know, so
Dealership, I think.
it's been
Yeah.
vacant for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I don't really see any challenges. Does any?
Is there any, I think it's 2 people ago, there was somebody who was gonna purchase it and then there was a issue of the cleaning up of the,
Well, that's it.
The-
Yeah, they'll go through their own environmental.
Well,
yeah.
there was, oil tanks everywhere. I think, when I
Yeah.
looked at it, it was like 11 oil tanks or something like
Wow.
that.
Oh.
They have removed all 11 tanks.
Those were done. Yeah.
Though
They were
that
buried,
remediation was done.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have the information on that.
There were gas pumps up front,
Yeah, right, and.
right on the street. That had to
right
be.
in the
Those
front.
were dug up since
Yeah.
I've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've gone through a lot of that, but you'll obviously, I'm sure that's part of your
Yeah, that,
condition of
we do
condition of
diligence.
sale. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I don't really see any challenges. I mean, and obviously it's just, you know, we're just kind of giving you a high level.
Okay, no,
But-
high level's good.
yeah.
That's
Okay.
enough for us to move.
And again,
forward.
like I said, you're gonna wanna deal with the emanation of odors and
Right.
fumes and stuff. You have to anyway for code and for her own health, so
Yeah,
you're gonna wanna do that, so.
Okay. No, I appreciate it.
And you're planning on reusing the building or just the footprint?
Just the building,
Okay,
and
okay.
then, you know,
Just trying to-
whatever parking we need to,
Right.
add, but we're not expanding the footprint whatsoever.
Okay.
Like, it's gonna be,
The
gonna remain
building
the same.
itself is still salvageable? It's
I have no
still-
idea.
Not the top portion of it, the roof,
Oh.
anything that is wood
Oh.
is not salvageable.
Yeah.
But the, concrete block, sort of, perimeter walls, the partition walls are fine.
Oh.
Those are
Yeah,
good.
that's what I thought too, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's not the end of the world, really.
Right.
Right.
You know,
So,
especially because obviously if you'd be hard pressed to build that big of a building on that site now
yeah, totally.
because of variances, so. No, I think,
Wow, good.
no, it seems exciting, actually.
It's nice to have the.
Great, good luck.
Well, we'll be in front of you guys in a few months.
Excellent,
All
excellent,
right.
great, we can't wait to see
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Welcome back. Okay, all right, so let's see what we got here. Next, we have the public hearing for 15 Main Street. Application by Laura Bergman for site plan approval. The applicant is proposing to convert an existing commercial space to a cafe and a tourist home with one room to rent. The subject property is located at 15 Main Street in Cold Spring, New York, and designated as tax map section 48.12, block 1, lot 70. The property is located within the B1, which is our general business zone. It is also in the national and local historic districts, but clearly not a contributing building. It's a kind of a modern, kind of ready for some love building. The applicant's materials are here. They've been here for a couple of weeks. It's been noticed in the newspaper. This is actually a portion of the legal notice that's been there. We have the members here. Member Hawkins has just joined us. So we'll, if you want to come up, Juhi represents the applicant, Laura Bergman. Great. And then you have and then the affidavit for the sign as well, right? Good. Okay, great.
This is just
Okay, so
site plan and
Yeah,
survey and the light fixtures that we're proposing. Just to walk through, I'm
actually, no,
blocking the
sorry.
code.
Can we move you to the other end? That way then they can get you to sit. I don't know, somewhere around here.
Okay. I should have brought the easel, I'm sorry, I'm,
No, it's fine.
No, that's fine, I was remembering it as our easel, not yours, so
Oh,
don't worry about bringing it.
I used to bring them and I think I'm a little out of routine. Okay, so the site plan is, so we're on Main Street. So as you go down the tunnel, I imagine everybody knows. We go down the tunnel, they pop up. There's Rincon Cafe here, and this is the building. And if you need photos, it's that building, blue with the white trim and doors, and it's concrete block building. So what we're proposing to do is the front half is a cafe, and the back half is the tourist home with one bedroom. And the definition of a tourist home is we're allowed to have up to 3 rooms, is my understanding, and I have a copy of the code if you need. We couldn't fit all the wording on here, so we just referenced this section.
That's fine.
Okay. And the reason also why we're proposing all commercial is so that we don't have to cut the tree down to do a curb cut, to lose the street parking, to provide a off-street parking. We thought that that was not a productive use of everybody's time and resource. So we are proposing to use this existing alleyway covered area as a handicap ramp and access to the front and the back. So both commercial space gets an ADA accessible route. And we are currently in conversation with the village board to purchase portion of this front stoop area because we had to raise the floor level in order to accommodate the flood level. And we're applying for workshop with this ZBA soon after this so that we can get their recommendation. But for today, we're just proposing this site plan so that our client can get at least the work done on the building. There's a lot of demolition that needs to be done. The back of the roof needs to be raised and a lot of cleanup, and we need to build a concrete bathtub to mitigate the flood. And so and yesterday we were at the Historic Review Board, and so far they were comfortable saying that we are allowed to raise the roof, which is visible from the back streets. A small portion is visible right now. I mean, there's also a lot of vegetation that is blocking the view, and some shed. There's another shed in the backyard of neighbors. So long story short, the Historic Review Board said that we can raise the back portion of the roof and provide this little niche of a covered outdoor area for the living tourist home. So in summary, we are asking for site plan approval and use, change of use request to turn the space into two businesses, and one being the tourist home and the front being cafe.
I have a few questions. I'm 13 Main Street, right next to that house. That place you're building right there.
Right here, yes.
She told me she's not raising the roof level in the back. I was told by her herself, she's not raising or changing the footprint of the building at all. She's leaving it the same.
Yeah, footprint is the same.
But the raising of the roof, she said she's not she said she wasn't raising the roof.
Maybe she was talking about another story. We're not going another story,
What is the purpose of raising the roof?
so that it will match the front.
Very good. Now,
Yeah.
when you
Oh, you're going
displace,
that height?
Same height as the front.
when you displace the water, where's the water gonna go at that point?
When we do the roof, you mean the leaders?
Yeah.
We will bring the leader back here and then we'll go down here into ground.
So you're gonna take the back and bring the water forward? Or you're gonna dump
So
it
there-
in the backyard into
Yes,
the
in our
basement?
Here
backyard, our
and
basement.
here we have to go below grade with the water. And same with the here, we do have a little bit of room on this side.
Where does that go?
What
below
side
grade
is that you're
what I'm
pointing at?
asking.
You say you have a little bit of room,
It's
because you
all
have no
concrete. It's
room
all
on my
concrete.
side at all.
Well, that's why we're cutting a little notch in here and then we'll put a roof leader in the back.
What, you mean like, say a dry well, you're gonna dump it into the ground?
Yes, yeah,
But
we
then
haven't
that would go
engineered
into our
the, yeah.
basement,
That goes
right?
into our basement then.
Oh,
So-
Judy, is there,
Well-
is there a way to bring the water that comes off the roof, forward?
Yeah, I would
To-
ask that.
Forward.
To the
To
street,
front?
yeah.
Yeah.
yes,
Because if you bring it to my backyard, you're gonna fill my backyard, which I have a below ground basement, which
Got it.
will
Do you,
fill up.
do you currently have a water infiltration problem from this
Yes.
site? You
Yeah,
do.
because everyone is raising their property levels up. Now, you did say that you were gonna bring the
floor
inside
level
floor
up with the concrete floor.
so that when the water, the Hudson say, comes,
Which we
that
hope
concrete
does.
is gonna displace even more water towards our house because they're gonna be higher than ours at that point. 'cause
No, no, they're
bringing-
not,
they're bringing
the
concrete
outside
up.
of their building isn't changing. What she's doing on the inside is
The
Inside.
inside, when you fill that building up with, see, now, we're talking about 4 feet of water inside the building. So that when the water is inside that building, the excess is gonna wind up going into our house again. It's just, there's no place for the water to go, is what I'm trying to say. The condos were built with a pumping system to keep their basements dry. They're pumping it back into a flooding Hudson River.
Mhm.
It's useless, the whole thing
We've been
doesn't
through
make any sense.
floods, two of them, and usually
Water is a
water
problem.
from their roof now fills into our basement.
And I
from just
clean the
running
gutters
off.
for them because it just goes nowhere, and then we get mosquitoes, and it's an ongoing problem.
Well, I mean,
I clean the
I mean, so the good news is there's a new owner and they're
Yeah.
gonna have to bring the property up to code. You're not
Yeah.
allowed to dump your rainwater onto your neighbor.
Okay,
That's-
You're also not allowed to inject water into the sewer
yeah,
Yes.
without a DEC permit.
Okay.
Juhi knows all this. She's a licensed architect and she's gonna figure it out for her client. It's all required under code, no different than the last, woman talking about, the fumes from spray paint, which are
Yes.
really pretty volatile stuff. But everything's manageable. It's like everything
Displacing
else.
the water,
It's all about
they
money.
have no place to go to
So-
displace it, but out front.
Yeah, we will talk to an engineer
Okay.
and definitely, we wanna be good neighbors, definitely.
Yeah, I know.
It may honestly be that there are instances where the DEC says you have to inject into the sewer because there's nowhere for it to go.
It
I'm
might
not
be.
saying that's the way this is
It
going
That
to
might
just
be.
brings up their sewer bill. We went through this with, they got caught, remember they did the smoke test and they found all these
Oh, yeah.
homes that were dumping into the sewer illegally? Well,
Yeah. No, my house has the leaders that go into the sewer.
Yeah.
You're just not supposed to
Right.
use them.
see, down the river, they took away the gutters that used to run down to the drains.
Yeah.
They flattened the road out. Do you remember, you weren't here with the big hump?
No.
You got out of your car and you fell out because they had drains along there
Just
that ran.
gullies,
Yeah.
culverts, yeah.
Yes, and it ran out, so they took the hump away, and which flattened the road, which
Yeah.
more now displaces water in a different way.
Yeah.
No, so I think that, I mean, I think the good news is that you know, you have a new owner that's gonna be responsible, that's gonna have to go through review. It's likely that the full redevelopment of the site, you know, could even be a type 1, which means it's a coordinated review from all the boards. This piece won't, this is just gonna be a type 2, although we need to vote on that first.
So has this
Did
been
I-
in front of other boards before, or is this the first
Just
time?
the,
it's-
Yeah.
it just went through,
I'd like
it
to
went
know-
to, it's been to us, it's also been to Historic Review
How
Board.
did it get to his historic review board without
Us being
passing
known
on
about it?
us?
That
It was
was
just
just
a
a
workshop.
workshop.
It was just a
yeah.
workshop, wasn't a public hearing yet.
So,
Oh, there were
they said
workshops.
it was okay to raise the roof at
Yeah,
just the
so-
workshop?
So this is something that Juhi and I had discussed, is that, you know, what we're trying to do, you know, especially when I took over the board, was we gotta get people through this process faster, because, you know, time really is money, especially on a commercial application. And so we said, why don't we chop this into 2 phases? Because if she were to wait, and the owner has to wait to figure out when the village board is gonna sell them the property, what restrictions they might put on that front, you know, that front portion, then she has to wait to then do the design for the front. If she waits for all of that, you know, the whole season has passed, potentially the whole construction season as well as the tourist season has passed, and then you're starting, you know, so what we wanted to do, what we talked about was just kind of saying, well, there could be 2 phases, right, where we look at the site plan, you create a functioning site plan that doesn't require the front stoop, where the building can be, the egress and ingress, you know, for the building can be done through the ADA ramp. It needs to be made accessible, because it's a complete reconstruction. So the rest of that will happen, and like the HDRB will have to hold a public hearing when she shows them what she wants the front of the building to look like.
The front's not really concerned.
I don't
with
care
any-
anything they do with the front,
I'm
the front
worried-
doesn't bother me at all, it's their back end that's gonna, so there's gonna be a deck out there which is gonna interfere with my yard. They have, say if there's a fire in there and there's people staying overnight, where are they getting out of, except for the front door?
These are all separate issues.
I know.
You're
There's a
jumping
front-
from
there's
one
a-
topic to
There's
another.
a rear door and there's a front door, so I mean, it's.
Where's
Yes,
the
and
rear
there's-
door?
So this is an area of refuge.
That's
so-
the point I'm trying to make. Now let me talk.
Alright.
Okay. So that, first we were talking about raising a roof. I thought that you were trying to open the roof for that area that you're talking about to put a porch. Is that what's gonna happen, where you were just pointing at for their exit?
So this, we're gonna have a continuous roof that follows the front line going all the way to the back.
Yeah.
And it's just the same, and then this will be also covered, but the roof leader will come and will,
Your finger is on what, a porch?
this is a back, like a back deck
That's where we're at.
A wide open deck.
Within
with
the
a cover.
Within the current footprint of the house, she's chopping out
Yeah.
sidewalls and creating just a little open airspace, right? Which creates a
And that's
creates
giving
a
her
rear
the exit front and back,
setback. What's that?
That's giving her her exit for the back?
for front and back.
It's not
Fire
with
exit,
with respect to fire safety, it's called refuge, right? Which means you can wait for the fire company back there, right? The hope is that, look, it's a very small space. There's really not a whole lot of reason to think you can't get out the front door. The only question is if the fire's at the front door.
Front door.
Exactly, that's
Yeah,
what
so
the
Where the
business.
cafe is, the business is
Right,
at.
but there's, these sites are challenging, right? Because your area of,
It's challenging our
Egress.
property is what it's doing, that's why we're asking these questions.
well,
I'm not sure I understand how that is, if they're in the footprint of the building, it is infringing
Well,
your
people
property.
hang
I
out there and it's my
appreciate-
yard and they'll be right,
Well, if they have
Is that
access to the
adjacent to your
outside,
your
Yeah.
yard? And
it
is
is,
there no
it is, it
barrier
is
between
dead,
the
dead right
property?
on to the inch to our
but
property.
there's about that much room between
The property.
their property and my house.
What if, she
well, not the
repurposes-
house, there's a alley
Alleyway,
between.
that's my
yeah.
alleyway.
The alleyway is
Yeah,
ours,
yeah,
and
but
the
not the
property,
house.
the back, there's 2 sides to that porch.
Understood,
One
but-
is our yard, and
Right,
one
but
is our
but let's be
alleyway.
clear, that people have a right to use their property. So
They
we,
do.
We're gonna balance
They
this,
do.
and we appreciate, the neighbor comment, but the
Yeah.
solution can't be you can't use your property, right?
I didn't
so-
say that, I
Right,
didn't
but you're saying
suggest that.
but you're saying that it impacts you and that.
It does
that's-
impact us.
Yeah,
I,
It
I,
most
and I think,
definitely
and I think
does.
they're gonna be sensitive to that.
yeah,
Especially
Um,
water and
water and privacy.
Privacy.
And so we're definitely willing to work with you here, and so that you don't feel intrusive. We can keep that existing wall up to a certain level, or, I mean, Laura, the owner, she was willing to keep it up high, and I was the one who said, let's, get some light in there, and, so if you would prefer, like a 5-foot high wall to remain,
I'm more concerned with what, like, we were told in the past, it's not your property, that there wouldn't be fire pits, and the people that
No, not your
rent
property.
these places, they
Right.
don't have barbecues. Well, I've had several people where I had to go out and explain to them how to put a fire out that were
Yeah,
more than
that's-
12 feet in the air.
That's
So I mean,
renters.
but you have people that are coming that are not country oriented and have no idea how to use fuel and how to put out a fire. There are no fire extinguishers. There are no.
I
There are
cannot
no-
imagine that's gonna be happening on this property. I mean,
I'm saying it's happening on all the other properties around our house.
Yeah.
fair enough, yeah, I mean, look,
So
people,
that I'm nervous with this one because it's
Yeah.
right next to the
I hear
house.
you, yeah.
right, but it's an occupied porch, you cannot have a barbecue on that, and I'm
You'd be
pretty sure. the
surprised.
owner-
You'd
what
be
you
surprised
can't-
when people
what you
could do.
can't do.
Yeah.
People
The
do.
things that are happening are
It's
out
not,
of
it's
control.
not,
But Laura
it's,
definitely doesn't want
but it's
it.
not a long-term rental, it's a tourist home, so
That's
really,
what these
you know,
other homes are.
Oh.
That's what these other ones are. They rent them by the
Right.
week.
They're B&Bs.
Airbnb, right.
Right.
Could I just
Yeah.
contribute here? I wanted to, I appreciate your remarks, because I think that we've all seen, we've seen a lot of people's residential homes being used for, the Airbnb and the
Right.
vacation.
Yeah.
And I think that the point that you bring up is, a reasonable one, and it points us to the question of enforcement and
Right.
of existing code, and I think that we're in a position where we can raise consciousness of the owner, and I think that I have confidence that she's sensitive to this kind of an
Yes,
issue,
I know
given the fact that
I can
the,
appreciate where you're going with this, and I think she's probably more responsible than any of the other people.
well,
I'm not arguing that, I'm just concerned about that one area, because
Yeah.
at first, I didn't even know there was a roof above it. I thought it was going
was
to be
open.
raised, and I thought people were gonna be partying,
Up,
people were gonna
yeah.
fall off the building, and, I mean, you wouldn't believe the people that I'm seeing, and I'm not gonna name which buildings, but I'm seeing them trip and fall and hurt themselves, and fires are started, and it's a disaster at
Yeah,
night.
no,
I mean, you can't sleep at
I-
2 o'clock in the
I
morning, and I
totally
gotta go to work.
appreciate.
And these people are renting and having a good
Yeah.
time, and I was young once, I get it.
Oh, I know.
But danger is a whole different aspect, I
Yeah,
mean, this is a
totally.
different situation.
Yeah.
Now, along with this particular situation, that would be your fire access front and back, you have to have
Yeah.
2 exits, I'm imagining, and that's why we're
The
putting that
planning
there.
board, the planning board just looks at a very high level for life safety, that's part of code enforcement. When
Mhm.
the planning board looks at the site plan, we try to look at, at life safety issues at a very high level and then call them out to the building inspector. It's the code enforcement officer that actually goes through a plan review and says, okay, here's what you have to provide.
Okay,
And it typically has to do with the square footage and the path of travel, how many different means of ingress and egress that you need for a building.
okay.
And so that will all be covered. The approvals that, were we to approve this tonight or the next meeting has nothing to do with whether or not that it meets all code.
No, but
That's done by the
it would be
code
good for us to
enforcement.
talk about it and hash it out now, then, I mean, that's what this meeting is for, at least to find out exactly where we all stand here, is what I thought we were doing here tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, no, basically what it is, we take the public input to kind of figure out what the folks around, obviously that's the whole point of neighbor notifications, you get the certified return receipts to know, and then we also added the posters, which I think are
Yes,
are
that was
very
something
helpful.
that helped me. I
Yeah.
got the poster before I got the letter.
Yeah, it's very
Oh, yeah.
helpful because
The
then
post
sometimes.
office did not deliver. We went to the post office to pick up one certified letter, and the other one didn't come until 4 days later when I
Yeah,
said I couldn't sign for it. So that letter would have been tonight
yeah,
instead of 4 days
So
ago.
but
That's
you
weird.
saw the
That is
notice.
very
I saw the
bad.
notice
That's
out
very
in
bad.
front,
Yeah, so that's what-
that
that's
notice,
good.
that
because the
right
sooner we
there.
can get neighbors talking, the better, and that's obviously why, you're talking tonight, you're not talking to the owner, but obviously she represents the owner,
Yeah.
they've done other projects together.
And I've
Um,
talked to the owner, and then
Laura.
I said, she said to me, any problems you have, you come to me, and I'll fix it. But the whole thing is, she can't fix something once something's done with
Right.
water.
Mhm.
You can't fix water into my basement, that's not gonna,
Well,
that-
I mean, you're very well covered in the code. You cannot let water from your property go onto your neighbor's property.
yes.
You
And so
have to
we'll
manage it.
definitely consult an engineer on how to mitigate the rainwater.
Two other issues that I have is, where may your garbage be going?
I know, that
To
is,
storage.
that is a challenge.
And is there a closing time for this? Is it a bar, cafe? What is this?
The operating hours down in the B1 are till 10, right?
Right, 10 PM, and so allowable is 7 AM to 10 PM, and we're proposing 10 to 10.
10 to 10, meaning what is B&R, what is exactly, or all the
It's a
letters?
business
Business.
district.
Like,
it's called
like the
business
restaurant
one.
across the street can only be open until 10, you're saying?
Till 10, yeah. Oh, he's staying open later?
I'm not gonna go there.
No, but
I
she
think you
said,
just
she
did.
actually told me, she's, as far as being loud and all that stuff, if I have a problem, just let her know.
Yeah.
But I don't really see wine and beer if they're going only till 10 o'clock. After 10 o'clock's when people get rowdy.
There were oil tanks that were underground, were they taken out?
Yes,
That I'm not aware of, actually.
they took the tanks out, when the bakery was gonna be there.
Uh-huh.
They removed, you know where that cove is you're talking about?
Right.
They were oil tanks buried
They
under
did
there.
open up the floor, and I was curious why they did that.
Yeah.
Got it.
So my other question would be is where is the fuel going to be put?
Yes, we
No fuel. No
All
fuel.
electric?
all electric?
I had a feeling you were gonna go with that.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
garbage would be a very big issue, being that we're near the river and that's where the rats are. Just
Yeah.
letting everyone else know what it's like to live where we are.
Is that something that
I'll
you
go
had-
there.
had built into your?
You know,
Our
it's-
dogs
it is-
killed just about
it is-
everything down
Because
there.
we're so built to
You really built
to
like
the
tight,
lot,
right?
yeah. And, I mean, we do have a storage room for the cafe, you know,
Yeah.
here, and, I mean, it's not a pleasant thing to have, but, so we were, you know, venting that really well. Now, for the residential trash, I think it will, because it's not a full-time residence, you know, it's going to be minimal, that's a plus. So I wonder if, I mean, the first thought that comes to my mind is, you know, to put it somewhere in this corner, but that is next to your house. But you don't wanna sit out there with trash can anyway, so it
Where
is,
the garbage can's gonna be is what I'm saying. Garbage cans, I mean, you
Yeah,
have
that's
to
what
take it
she's
from the
talking,
inside
that's
of
what.
your
Yeah,
house.
that's what she's saying.
She's talking about.
It's,
yeah.
it would have to be in the cove where they go in and out of the residential
Is there
area
a
and the
way,
restaurant is where the garbage
Jody,
would have to be.
Is it possible to build it underneath the front of the ramp?
That's what I was
Oh,
thinking.
that's a,
Since
That's a
there's,
great
you
idea.
have
yeah.
some clearance.
We do have, I mean, it's just
It's
it's
a
2
ramp for
feet,
what?
but, you
It's
know,
an
Wheelchairs.
ADA,
Wheelchairs.
But the building is like, it's just,
but
so
they're,
how high does
they're
the ramp
raving
have
the
to be? I
floor.
mean,
They're
it's
raising
going
the
up 2
floor.
feet.
It has to
how
end
high?
up
It
at
has
2
to be
feet.
2
feet?
feet, it's going up
The
2
garbage cans probably won't fit in that space.
Well,
It's
this
small
would
one.
indicate a custom garbage can
Well,
solution,
I think, like
Which keeps garbage
recyclables,
small.
I think.
which keeps garbage
Yeah.
small, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea, actually, to keep under, I mean, it
That's
would be
why they
small.
pay me for this.
But still, you're talking about glasses and stuff like that. You know how much garbage?
But it's not full-time residence, so that's
No,
something.
Yeah.
actually
Oh,
the
for
The
cafe.
yeah.
Cafe will put
Cafe's
out a
gonna
lot,
produce more
it'll
garbage than.
produce a lot of
Are there-
garbage.
Are there for cafe and,
Is there food gonna be in there?
yeah.
No, it's sandwiches and
Just
things like
prepped,
that. No,
you know, off-site prep.
no cooking type of
No
going
cooking.
on
No
now.
cooking.
Or is that just, you know, it's kind of the economic pressure of, hey,
They're
if you wanna
doing-
run a business, you gotta get rid of your garbage every day, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you could get private trash service
Yeah.
and just have, you
Just
know,
get it out every day.
Well, I think you have to if you have a restaurant.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you're gonna have to
Right.
store it
The
somewhere
village
until the
isn't
garbage man pick it up.
supporting garbage.
Yeah, I will have a talk,
The longer you store garbage,
oh, not for
that's a
restaurants.
bigger problem.
The other commercial stuff?
We have raccoons,
Because
we
they're marine
have
sampling
rats,
and
yeah,
cardboard.
every known animal down there.
How often is there, I guess the regular garbage is once a week?
Once a week?
Yeah.
But is it different in the commercial district or, I don't know for
not through the village, you'd have to do
Yeah.
private
You have
service.
to-
You have to do
Yeah.
your
Yeah,
own.
you'd have to hire
But Royals here, I mean,
Contract,
so-
Right.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll
have
have
a
a,
Hudson House,
yeah.
and how often do they come?
once a week.
Once a
They have a
week.
dumpster room.
But they have a
We'll
lot
have
of.
They
to
have a
rent a
room-
dumpster.
They have a room with a dumpster in it, so
Oh,
they
there
have
you
to be
go.
closed.
Yeah.
You get a lease from them.
Yeah, we'll have to
Wheel across the street to their dumpster.
Well, you're giving me ideas, definitely. And we, you know, worst comes to worst, we can turn that, I mean, it's a storage. And she was saying that, or we can turn the office into a dumpster room and just extract, you know, actively,
The vape, just ventilate it.
yeah.
How big are the two separate areas?
Two separate areas?
The
Yeah,
square
you have
footage.
one that's an actual
Square footage.
restaurant and one that's
Oh,
where your B and B or whatever you're gonna call it, residential living space.
Yeah, cafe is 9,580, not
9,000.
8, 900. Sorry,
900, wow.
Nine, I'm sorry, it's late.
It's huge.
It's getting late.
I do that all the time.
It's under 1,000 square feet, and then tourist home is 1,266.
No, I didn't think it was that big.
Yeah.
That's 2,000 square feet, that building is?
Yeah.
Is it?
I'm surprised.
2,224.
But there is no property on either side
Right.
of your, or even in the back. You have, your building's your building, that's.
It's landlocked is
It's
what it is.
landlocked
It
in
is,
there.
yeah, and we're definitely not increasing, you know, square footage, we're definitely not increasing, I mean, we only had to match the roof line because we had to go up for the floodplain.
But I think, you do raise a good point, and that's why it's great to have you here, because it's something that we miss. You're gonna have to deal with the garbage, and it would probably make sense to have a shared access room, right? You know, somewhere towards the front, you know, because luckily they have a shared entrance, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can just kind of say, you know, and maybe it's just the cleaning service that has access to the, you know, but just like an apartment house, you're gonna need like a garbage room, because you can't, there's nowhere to deal with it on this, the only way to deal with it on the site, which is on the ramp, which is the last place you wanna look at it, right? You know, as people
Yeah.
walk past
It's gonna be
garbage,
a tough place for the garbage.
you know, so you're gonna have to, I
For
think,
business, I mean.
you know, but luckily, I don't think you're gonna have a lot, you know, I mean,
Yeah, I'm thinking that we'll just have to deal with it in here and turn it into a depressurized.
How high is the roof going to be? I'm just curious.
Same as what you see on the
It's
street.
just gonna
It's-
continue
It's
on.
continue
Yeah.
across.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Where does it go from here after you sort out everything here? We have to go to another meeting in order to find out exactly where we stand from that?
no. What we're doing tonight is really looking at the site plan, which is this site
Yeah.
plan. The HDRB has approved that she can raise the roof and,
And notch this
Carve out
historic,
the-
from
yeah.
historic
Oh,
point of
they've already
view.
given the okay. So
So,
it's a
to
waste
do
of
those,
time.
to do those couple of things, because they're gonna, you know, because it's just a reuse, she's not changing the footprint. You know, so, and then it would, in phase two,
You're
would
never gonna
be,
win this.
in phase two is where the, you know, the front, they'd look for variances for, if the village sells them the property, then she'd change the front of the building to accommodate this stoop and a, you know, and a railing and different windows.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
not,
the front, I don't, whatever. how-
yeah, so I think it sounds like what you're mostly interested in, what's happening now.
yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of it is
Pretty
gonna
much.
be,
Trash.
the rest of it is mostly
The
gonna.
rainwater is my, because, you know,
Water.
we're, it
Yeah.
Water
runs.
is a very
Makes a lot
big
of
issue
sense.
down
And I have windows that are in the alleyway
Yeah.
that water goes in those windows.
You have
When we
to
had
appreciate that the
floods.
Hudson comes up this high where we live.
No.
Okay,
Oh,
I mean, our
totally.
porch, we walk out on our porch into
Well,
the
even
water.
when it rains, the water comes into
Yes.
your basement. If
It's
you've
a
got
basement.
Yeah, it's a
Because of
cellar,
the water
right?
table,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I ask, so on the plan here, can we ask you to address the rainwater specifically in your,
Sure.
in the site plan? So that whatever is shedding off the roof will
Mhm.
be brought forward away from the rear?
Yeah, and so we, if
That would
we're.
make us very happy neighbors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
Right
an
now, the
excellent
gutters
point.
are totally full and spilling over, because it's been abandoned for so long, it's just spilling over and into our alleyway.
Right.
So it'd be, anything, we're the ones who made them put the gutter up in the first place, because they had open roofs, and it was running into our basement. So they put the
Yeah.
gutters up and they ran piping, but
So, but the groundwater is an issue, so even if we, so I'll just have to talk to engineer and see what we can do, like, can we bury a tank that
cistern or
slowly,
something? Yeah.
lets out, or, you know, I mean, it is in the flood zone, or would the village allow, in this case, just to go into,
The problem
storm.
here, what they're talking and what we're looking at is you are pumping the water back into the flooding river. And it's not gonna do
Well,
much.
there's nothing you can do
Yeah,
about
there's
that, but the
nothing you
water
can-
from the
Yeah,
rain.
exactly,
So,
there's nothing
yeah.
you can do.
That's
So
the
When
rain-
it floods, it
Yeah,
floods,
but-
there's nothing you can
Yeah,
do
we're not
about
talking
flood.
about, I don't think that we're
No one
trying
can
to
fix the
address
river.
a flooding issue right now.
Maybe a
We're-
roof that, like, our roof, that it has an edge. So if you have drainage pipes and so on, that if you tip the roof a little bit, the water goes down, and then if you have pipes or drainage or something that leads all the roof water at least to somewhere else instead of going down directly on.
Well, that's the challenge, is there is no somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
the-
it's all
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
left.
There is no somewhere, when they drained it out in front, which, there was a house that they, when it freezes, it turns into ice skate on the sidewalk. And we'll have a problem with that down by the river, cause they're draining the water off the roofs out to the front.
Right.
And then, in the winter months, it turns into an ice skate rink.
Yeah, which is very.
There's a lot of
dangerous.
houses down by us
It's
that
hard
have
to
it.
live where we are, nobody really pays too much attention.
Yeah.
It's
And it's
dangerous
a-
liability.
And it's
Oh,
it's
it's a liability,
densely,
sure.
it's a thickly settled area, there are a lot
You
of.
can't
roofs
use too many
along-
chemicals because you're too close to the Hudson. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
if you're worried about
So-
green or anything like that, I mean, and you got a lot of dogs and
Yeah, it goes into the-
human traffic, bare feet, I mean, you don't really want a lot of chemical action going on down there.
So-
How about the parking?
So,
How do we
Back to the
get,
parking.
do we get to have 5 more parking
But it's-
spots
yeah.
that don't go anywhere?
Yeah, I know.
with respect to
nowhere to
the
go.
water,
Yeah, I'm really interested.
can we, I'd like to get us to a place in conversation about the mitigating
But they're
the
not changing,
the
you're
runoff.
not changing the
Yeah.
footprint.
The
So it's
runoff
already-
on,
we can't
either
take-
side
We
and
can't take their
figuring out,
building away from them.
if you can consult
Yeah.
with your engineer
If they were
specifically
enlarging it,
about
yeah.
addressing all of the roof runoff,
Mhm.
forward,
Yeah,
um,
I'm thinking maybe we can have a rain barrel somewhere, I mean,
Some
it'll
kind of
take up.
cistern, it would be such a great opportunity actually to do something kind of, you know, it's, the main issue is where you're gonna house it.
Yeah.
Because you're so built out.
You're gonna have to
within
house
this.
it out in front of the building to have a
But
bump
that could be
like
a
that.
statement,
Yeah.
or within the,
Until the
wherever it
mosquitoes
is.
fill up inside there with them.
No,
And
that's,
everybody's like,
no, it should
No,
be
but
We'll have
have
to treat it,
the-
yeah, we'll
yeah.
have to treat it.
Have the bucket.
But it is a very interesting educational opportunity, you know,
Yeah.
like, I mean, this is.
well, yeah, it's definitely an opportunity for innovation in a challenging site, given the location where you
I
have a
mean, if they
high
dump
water
the water
table
into our yard, their own people are gonna get eaten by mosquitoes.
Yeah,
I don't
Honestly,
think that's
mean,
their, yeah, I
yeah,
doubt that's
we
their
definitely
intention.
don't want
It's not a good
standing
situation
water.
for anyone involved in this particular situation.
Could I also ask about, I just wanted to, address the question of screening and there will be some activity on the outdoor
Back.
deck that's, the porch area.
Back
Um,
here or here?
Yeah, no, back, in the back.
Mhm.
And so I just wanna make sure that we, in addition to sort of really intentionally addressing the water mitigation, that we're addressing any questions about impacts now, if you're feeling like the owner is open to screening,
Absolutely, yeah.
and will that, for my clarity, will that outdoor deck be raised up and at the floor level
You know,
of the
We have
rest of the,
dogs that are going to,
of the cafe?
I
Do
mean,
you
they're
know,
right,
is that
that's
a
the
step
foot of deck
down?
right where the dogs are.
Are you envisioning a step down?
we could step down, it was limited space, and that's the only reason, I mean, we certainly don't want,
I'm actually just asking what your proposed future state is, because it's not clear to me. I don't really have any solutions, but I'm interested to know, like, what you know, what sort
Are
of
you talking
opportunities
about the back
or-
deck
The
part?
little back-
I'm not clear
yeah.
about that neither, so
Yeah,
I'm
so I'm
glad.
asking for
I'm glad.
clarity.
Where, I don't understand, where are we going with this?
Oh,
Oh,
how
just
high
the
is the
issue of
floor?
screening
Yeah.
on that back, so that's where, this property, is adjacent to your property.
Yes.
And you're, it, just because of, you know, it's hard to foresee different kinds of uses and you've had experiences.
Yes,
But I heard, Judy, you mentioned that, your client would be open to raising the
Yeah,
some
privacy screen
privacy
or,
fence or screen, yeah.
I mean, it is currently concrete wall to the
Understood.
corner.
yeah.
So we could take down less, you know, and just keep a privacy there and then keep the floor low,
Low,
yeah. So I don't see why not. I just have to figure out how many steps are we allowed without a landing.
Right,
you know.
right.
So
Yeah.
we've done it before, I just have to refresh my memory on the code.
But if you maintained the height at the, so it was, you know, just a walkout, if there's a screening, is there, you know, I'm just thinking about like, if you don't make that change, but you are still, you know, are you still able to provide screening for
Absolutely,
neighbors?
yeah, absolutely.
Is there any room on either property for vegetation once the
No.
wall is there? No, nothing.
We have room, we can plant anything we want.
Oh, yeah, but on this property, it's built
No.
up to the line,
It's-
basically,
Yeah.
Right.
with a few inches, okay.
It's
I mean, maybe we
right
could do planters on top of the concrete wall, you know,
Ooh.
like do climbers.
That'd be nice.
On top of the concrete, we'll have planters that climb up.
Oh, I don't, yeah, prettiness, I'm thinking, I'm trying to be more realistic about it. I mean, I don't want the dogs jumping on their people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't want raccoons and rats. I don't want war.
Fighting at
I
it,
mean,
yeah.
I'm looking at realistically, you can't stop progress, we're well aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it would help Cold Spring,
So
and more people to park.
parking.
So, yeah,
So, but I'm looking at, you know, I mean, it would benefit you to listen to what we're saying as well as it would help us too. I mean, you know, there are water issues, there are animal issues that people are just not aware of that's taking place. I mean,
yeah, so, I mean, we definitely don't wanna store trash in that back corner and,
I wouldn't have suggested.
yeah, and I think it's just best, say, whoever is cleaning the apartment after each use, we just take the trash out with that person. And for the restaurant, we'll just have to have a trash room within or go rent it across the street. And privacy, we definitely honor privacy and no fuel on site,
That's awesome.
and water management.
But they did take the oil tanks out from in the ground, I saw them take them out when they were.
I thought they replaced them and she saw them taken out, so I
One
wasn't
time
really
they
sure.
filled them,
I wasn't sure.
and they got in trouble for filling them with sand. Then when the new bakery owners bought it, they had to have them removed. The village made them take the old tanks out.
Boy,
So they paid to have those tanks taken out and they didn't even open up.
poor guy.
They didn't even go anywhere. They bought the building and everything and removed the old oil tanks and everything and gutted the whole thing that you see it now. They gutted the whole thing to put the bakery in there, but because of the codes they needed to cook and do all that stuff, the village wouldn't allow it.
Mm.
So
What
that's why
about, there
yours-
are hemlocks that are completely out of control next door, not from our property, but
Right.
the people next door.
It will be.
That's gonna
impacted.
hinder a lot of your progress to be made. I imagine you're gonna whack every one of those. Is there any, you're gonna put anything back there, or did you plan on putting trees back, or nobody wants trees there, or that's gonna open up, I mean, it's gonna be really not
Are you
private.
leaving the hemlocks there or just trimming
No,
them back?
we're gonna
We
whack
were-
'em.
I mean, we were looking at that, there's some photos of, it's not in here per se, there was,
When you get into the roof work, you're probably gonna have to cut them so severely that they may not ever.
Come back.
These are on,
But these are not on.
They're not- these are not on your property,
Bergman's
right?
not on our property,
It's
but
it's
the
overhang,
tree
yeah.
has
Overhang.
grown
Yeah.
into Laura's
Yeah.
property.
So you're, I
Yeah.
mean, you're
So
on
you're
Shannon.
within your right.
Yes.
to-
She has a lot of overhang from
Yeah.
that property.
It's just that right now, it's a very huge privacy fence.
Mhm.
After they're gone, I'll be looking at Padala's property.
Are they on,
On the next street over, I'll be able to just look
are
at.
the hemlocks that you're referring to on the back of the blue house?
They're next to the cafe.
No, next to the
Sarah-
cafe.
Oh.
They're
Yeah,
on that
I
property.
believe they
Cafe
are like right
Dysfunction
here.
Junction is what they used to call
I
Right
think that's
behind
what
the
I-
shed, I
Yeah,
think.
okay. I
Yeah.
understand.
It's
Yeah,
right
out
where
there.
there was a shed in the back they have, and that's where the maple tree that's growing up and over your property is really bending over.
Yeah.
That, you're gonna have to remove that one.
That's a big.
But the hemlocks, I was just wondering, if you trim them, they're not gonna come back.
There's probably about 8.
Yeah,
Oh, 8 of them? We only
yeah.
thought there was one major one that was
No,
over here.
no, there's a whole line
And
of,
then another one
No,
here.
they're about this big around, all in a row,
there's a
right next
line,
to your
the
building.
whole line of them.
Okay.
And then there's a good sized maple on your backside.
Right.
That's over your roof.
Well, those will need to be just addressed in the course of
Yeah, I mean, that's any,
construction.
A lot of stuff
Yeah,
going on
property.
there.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
But, okay, so trash and rainwater mitigation.
And yeah,
and-
screening.
and
And
privacy.
screening.
Back,
Okay.
yeah,
The
water
back
mitigation or stormwater runoff, yeah. Screening the back deck and the trash. Trash.
There's gonna be a
mitigation.
problem, who do we talk to, the actual owners, when it comes time for the construction to take place, so that they don't let our dogs out continuously? I know that they're just gonna trespass, it's just gonna happen, nobody's gonna adhere to anything, but we just don't want our dogs to run away when we let them out at night or in the morning. That happens on a regular basis. Now, it's happening before they even get in the place, it's happening, so I mean,
Well, that was the surveyors that did that.
it happens, I mean, people
They
just,
leave the fence open?
I'm
or
sure they
something?
do.
Yeah,
I mean, it's, you know, no
And
one
is
really
this fence
respects
in?
anyone anymore.
mine.
Okay.
They had to come in my backyard to survey, I allowed the surveyors
Yeah.
back there. They have to come back there, so
Right.
I was like, fine, but every time they left the gate open.
Got it.
And I have little dogs and,
Yeah, that's a problem.
Well, they're
So
gonna have
in
work to
this-
do too, I
In
mean, they're
this
gonna have to come on the
case,
property.
Do you foresee the, people who are gonna be
Going
During the
through your property?
construction work, will they have to cross, their property?
nobody's coming in my alleyway to take things out and knock things down and put it in my alleyway. I don't
We'll
know how
have
you
to do
get-
it from, we'll have to
They
do it from us.
front,
Yeah,
and I don't
and the
know where,
side.
yeah.
There's we were going to do a stucco finish, but maybe we just leave it as it is, you know, so the wall that is in question, I think, is along here. I mean, this work, we'll just have to do it from here. It's just finishing the stucco along the alleyway.
They have to put the gutter up and everything.
Yeah, no, you can have accents, but the whole thing is people that come in there leave the gates open.
I know, yeah.
And I don't, I'd rather have it closed, cause I sometimes just half asleep, let dogs out in the yard. I don't realize the gate is open, which that happened with just the surveyors,
Is
let
it-
alone construction people.
I'm trying to remember where your gate is. Is it,
Yes, yes.
here?
Yeah.
Here?
Back there.
Huh.
We were gonna put one out front, but we knew you were coming, so.
That's very kind of you. We'll just have to coordinate, I'm thinking, can we do a double gate where, we'll have to see on site and just.
I'll
make
give you another for instance, not that it's gonna happen, but people, like, you know, they come from everywhere and they walk down our alleyway and they go to the bathroom down the alleyway, and I've seen naked women on the back part of the property from your little boating activity thing there with the,
Oh my goodness.
I've seen people stripped down naked broad daylight.
Yes, I've seen them.
Women, men, makes no difference. It
The
doesn't-
tourists,
It's just the way it is, I mean, you
Wild.
wouldn't believe what's
the
happening.
wild tourists.
Girls think that the
Wild
bathroom
West.
is right across the street where all this, the brand new equipment is for, that, they just, right
You know where
there,
the
it's a bathroom.
sub pump area is? Where they have that enclosed. People pee in there all the time. They're constantly in there. Women,
Wow.
men.
It's, everything's a laboratory
You
down
know,
there.
somebody once said to me, "You have no idea what goes on down here. You
Yes.
live up the hill. You have no." And I was like, "I don't know what she's talking about."
Yeah.
And now I guess I'm
Then they must
beginning
be-
to
then they're right.
understand.
They go in
Here
that
we
little
are.
alcove and we can see it from our back deck. We can see them squatting down and.
Yeah.
And I usually like to scare them or let them get halfway to, hey, what are you doing over there? Where'd it come from?
Oh,
But anyway,
That's
as far as the construction part, if they can, the gate, I don't want the gate left open and the dogs going out.
Okay, understood.
Thank you.
understood. And we will do our best to work from within.
Yes,
And I
if you
think
do
we
that.
just have to coordinate We'll have
when
to
you do
coordinate.
the out, if you want a stucco, and then just tell me when you're there, and then I could be more aware, not just open your door, half asleep and let the dogs out.
Yeah, understood.
Main thing is the rain.
Right, so I think, thanks.
These are
Yeah.
very
Thank you very much for your input.
excellent,
so-
valid points, yeah.
How is the board feeling with respect to the public hearing? I mean, do we wanna leave the hearing open?
I think-
I mean,
Well, do we want to, are we waiting, are we gonna, see, are we just gonna consider a revised set of plans addressing the items, the screening and the rainwater engineering and where, trash and recycling, how that will be addressed?
yeah, I think we can, well, then I think we can probably, I don't think there's any need to hold the public hearing open. I think if people wanna go, Sue was saying she'd like to go look at the site, cause now we're talking about all these things that we can't really quite understand, don't open the
Yeah,
gate.
because, you know, if
Um,
you say
Don't.
how low, how
Yeah,
high,
don't.
whatever,
Yeah.
if we look at it, we probably will have a
Yeah.
feeling. Right now, we're just
Yeah.
talking.
I think that's probably fair, and I hate, I know we're trying to rush you through, but we wanna make sure that we,
Yeah.
what's that?
Should we do a group, site walk through? Can we,
That would be
Would you-
fine
yeah, would you be open to that?
For
I
what?
don't know,
to walk through, they
do
want to
the
be able to
site
see it.
together.
They want to
To
see
see-
what we're talking
You know,
about.
I
Oh, the
have to
water
I
say,
think you could,
and
I think if you wanna do that,
For me,
What?
I mean, I don't have to go to this, I don't feel like I have to go to the site.
I don't think- yeah,
I feel
no,
like
site, yeah.
what I'm most concerned about is, you know, understanding from the applicants and the property owner, that the site plan can be revised to address and mitigate the issues that the neighbors raised.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah, I think some like notes on it with respect to the screening, privacy screening on the deck. I think with the garbage has to be shown on the plan, or at least a note on the plan that you're gonna have interior storage of garbage without transfer of odor, right? I don't, the stormwater runoff is challenging because you're not increasing anything, right? So I mean, I don't know if we can make you make a building work that doesn't work, right? You know, so I think, but you're gonna wanna do that, and obviously you're gonna have to do that because now you own the building. But I don't know how much we can restrict. Look, when
I see,
When
I
Carolyn's
see,
Flowers-
I see what
when
you're
Carolyn's
saying, 'cause it's a
Flowers
roof
says,
that already
take the
exists.
building
Yeah,
down,
I
and
understand.
you know, my suggestion to them was, I'd stay in 1897 if I were you,
Yeah.
right? Instead of coming into 2018 and dealing with the environmental quality review,
Yeah.
with a brook that goes to the Hudson, and, you know, perk in your soil, and,
Right.
you know, and,
Yeah.
and, by the way, she wanted to do concrete. Well, you don't even need a permit to,
Yeah.
to pave your driveway,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But if you're gonna come to us, and you're gonna tear the building down, we're gonna start over and go say, no, the comp plan
Yeah,
says
yeah.
pervious surfaces,
Right.
right? So, you know,
Yeah,
I since,
I get what
you know,
you're saying.
but I do think that, you know, we can certainly put a note on there to say, I don't know that we can request engineering to say that they can manage 100% of the stormwater on site,
Mhm.
right? Because I don't know that that's a reasonable goal. Obviously, you're gonna wanna try to divert as much as you can and do as much as you can because you're both gonna be dealing with the rainwater. You know, the old, well, I don't know why the old owner would like that either, but you know, you create an ice condition up front on a commercial property, you get slip and fall, and then then you have a different set of challenges, right? So I think you're all gonna be equally kind of aligned to figure out how to manage it. I just don't know how much the planning board can,
I
you know,
understand.
Review.
can enforce that. Well,
Right.
on new construction, sure, we
Right,
can
yeah.
say, hey, you know what? Your building can only be a third of this size, or you need a drywall that's half the size of the building,
Right, right.
right? Because there's nowhere
But
else
it's
for
an,
it to go.
but I take your point, it's an existing building,
And you're not
so-
increasing the roof, you know, I mean,
Right.
if you're increasing it, then we're gonna say, hey, wait a minute, right?
However, I
Yeah,
will
you're going
say
from
that
a flat roof
earlier.
to
You're going
pitch
through,
roof.
but you're going to a pitch roof,
You're
which is,
changing the
you're
roof.
changing the roof. You're going pitched
You're
from
going
flat
from
to
flat
pitch.
to
Oh,
Well, the water's,
in the back.
Yeah.
it's still a roof, I mean, the
That's
water's, you know, it's still shedding,
But I would
right?
say.
It's gonna shed this way, it's gonna shed that way.
Depends on which
I
way
mean,
the roof is.
But as you know, I mean, there's only, you know, there's the
Square.
earth can hold so much water, right? You know, the more hardscape we put on top of it, the less it's going into it. And we all, you know, we're like cheek to jowl
I'm
on
not
those.
I
seeing
would
that.
like to contribute to the discussion that our applicant has responded receptively and practically to the concern of the neighbor and has offered to take a look at the engineering. And
Yeah, I
that's-
think without question, yeah, I think diverting the rainwater, even rain barrels or cisterns would be interesting. I don't really even know how many gallons come off a roof. I mean, you know how
Yeah,
to
I know,
calculate
that's
that,
like-
but-
Small,
Yeah.
like a slowed, what, in the past, what we've done is do a slow perk, you know, so that it's not inundating the
Yeah.
ground.
Like take the gutter and hole it, so it's
So
a
the
slow
tank-
drip instead of a
tank would-
pour.
right. Like the
Basically
tank would
not the-
hold it and then do a slow perk over time so that it's not inundating.
Because what's
Yeah.
happening
You
is
might be able to do something under the ramp,
Mhm.
Right,
You know?
that's exactly what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
yeah.
but it's a large
There's a
area,
tank
but,
under there.
but I
Yeah,
think
but
that,
access
Yeah.
panel, yeah,
yeah. So I think that, so what all would we need to see notes on the plan with respect to
That's
managing the
probably-
garbage. Privacy screening for the porch.
Mhm.
And then obviously, and then I think obviously, and I think you're probably already handling this, but no light infiltration from your site onto theirs.
Mm.
That's any new penetrations or any new, and then also privacy screening, because oddly enough, the ramp is a lot more active than the porch, right? And that shares the same common boundary,
but
Mhm.
yeah.
but
we
you're probably gonna
that
want, you're gonna want
privacy.
privacy screening there anyway, right?
Yes.
So just make sure that's noted on the plans.
Mhm,
You did mark down the water though, right?
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
And lights,
And-
water, trash,
Yeah,
screening.
well, the lights are those gonna be the lights for out in front. Is what those are.
So these
Yeah, they're
are,
low lighting type lights.
yeah, this
Yeah.
light is going back here, just one, that, and then this light, we were going to just point downward, not pointing at you, but just point downward at the,
What where your where your walkway is and all that in there? Yeah.
and they'll be under the roof,
Yeah.
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 And we definitely want to, you know, accommodate your needs, because, I mean, she wants to be here a long time, and she wants to be good neighbors. And she said she hates loud places, you know, that's her pet
That's why she
peeve.
doesn't like the ice cream place.
She said they're very loud.
They're very loud. They're the kids when they're getting their ice cream.
She won't let anybody wait in line.
That's why she said she was gonna open an ice cream shop because.
So do we,
So motion to close the public hearing.
do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Great, so I think what we'll do then is if you could put the notes onto the plan, and then we'll meet again.
Mhm.
And that way then, with those notes, I can give the attorney's office all the whereas statements that we'll put on here,
Yeah,
and then I think we can vote on it.
and we'll bring the cut sheet of
You know.
the rain barrel, let's say, and
Mhm.
see how they work. And,
Yeah.
And,
I mean, if people are comfortable, we can also vote on a resolution that would reflect all these things tonight. It doesn't really change the schedule any, we'd still have to see everything in 2 weeks anyway.
Why don't we just wait and
So,
have them
yeah.
integrated into the resolution and,
Next 2
Yep.
weeks.
yeah, I mean, we still have to go through a zoning board, I mean, we can still go
Yeah.
through workshops while we're doing this, so it doesn't really impact our schedule so much,
Okay.
you know.
How quickly do you wanna get a permit to start swinging a hammer?
Oh, boy,
Yesterday.
this summer, you know, I think.
Oh, summer, yeah.
I think, I mean, we would love to,
No, I think, I would think we can vote on this next week,
Next
and
week.
then our conditions
Or 2
are gonna
weeks.
be, 2 weeks, I'm sorry.
Does.
Although I'm not sure if I'm gonna be here.
Oh, wait, I don't know if I'm gonna be here either. I have to,
the,
Alright, well,
Figure out a
we'll
date.
figure out a day.
yeah,
You
cause
wanna
that's,
do next
that's,
week?
I will not be here
that's
on
going
the
to be
23rd.
Memorial, it's gonna be the
It's
beginning of
Memorial
Memorial Day
Day
weekend.
Meh.
I don't know if people are gonna get an early start.
So you're leaving the town
Should the
on
16th,
the
should,
heaviest holiday?
Hell yes.
You wanna be down here with us.
Not after I hear what goes on down there.
Going down the river.
I don't wanna
what's
see that,
happening
yeah.
in your backyard.
Yes.
Trash, rainwater, privacy, and the light, okay.
Should we do it next week?
We could,
and lights, yeah, and, screening of the back deck, screening of the ADA ramp.
Can I ask one question? When's this construction allowed to start? Like, and
Not
finish?
yet.
what do you mean?
Yeah, I know. What time? Is there time?
Oh,
Does the
time.
village have
I
a?
think it's, I don't
or
remember what
limit
it is, is it
during-
9 to,
It's during the week, and I
Yeah.
think it,
Or is it eight?
it's
It might be
eight.
eight. I think it's 8
It's
a.m.
definitely not 7:30.
That's
No.
what I'm saying. What time do construction start?
Typically it seems like it's starting
Four?
at 8. I hope.
Eight?
Yeah, it's in the code. I don't, for some reason I can't recall it right
Eight to-
now.
remember either. I don't
8 to
remember.
4?
I don't think it's
We're
4.
all guessing up here.
I know, I'm hoping 4.
You're guessing out there too.
Yes. 8 wouldn't be too bad, but till 4 at night?
I'm thinking sundown.
Yes, I know.
Hmm.
I'm just wondering, don't get me wrong, glad they're fixing it up and all that, but sometimes
it-
the pounding gets to you.
Oh, yes.
We just
I
went through
understand.
one,
We just went through a whole pounding one,
not 2 houses away.
2 houses away. Yes. They started very early in the morning and very late at night. So I was just wondering myself, what is the code time for
This is
Noise.
smaller, so I mean, probably
Yeah, I know.
get to it.
It could finish in 2 days, might as well start from
Yes.
4 and then
Yeah.
Get it
end
started
at 12 and
right.
just gone.
It's just gone, yes.
Do it while I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, it's gonna take me a while to find it.
That's all right.
It's definitely in the code and it's part of the noise, it's part of noise regulation.
Noise regulation, yeah.
It's either 8 or 9. Yeah, I think it's 8 though.
My gut is 8, just based on anecdotal.
But seeing other
Experience, but-
constructions, usually it's about 8.
8.
But I just wanted time,
We can
nighttime
double check.
time was.
You're wondering about the end
Next
of time.
week or,
What's that?
say we're gonna meet again next week instead of 2 weeks' time when everybody's away or?
We'd have to look to see if we can get a room. I mean, I guess we could meet in a small room.
We could meet in small room
Are
or
people available next?
I can be available next Thursday in lieu of next
Oh, no,
Tuesday,
next Thursday, no,
16th.
we have guests.
And that's for all you to vote.
Yeah, but
We
it's
don't
good.
need to be
We don't
present for
need
that.
to be- we just wanted to give our thoughts.
Yeah.
No, no, it's
been
very helpful,
helpful.
thanks.
on
I
that.
appreciate it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, I'm not fighting, I definitely need, something needs to be put in there
and all of that is good design and good, neighborly thing to do, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about the rainwater.
I don't wanna start a war or anything.
No.
They
I'd rather
want, they
be-
want to
I'd
put a
rather
bakery
only
in
have-
with a chimney like 7 feet in the air,
I
or
know.
3 feet.
Who's
down, like,
here? Are you here on the
The
23rd?
bakery was a little bit,
For a regular
that's
meeting?
why that
I would
filled.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have.
That
any
were,
plans,
I'm sorry,
but-
they were.
Are you
Oh,
here
the
on the
bakery, they
23rd?
want
Or you
to
said
put
you,
in
are you on?
stacks
It's next week.
out of those roofs in the back.
Okay.
Oh.
They had to go higher than my roof line.
Let me check. I'm not sure when we're leaving.
I was wondering, I did not follow through all the
Yeah.
news.
So there could be
They had
3
to,
of us.
they
That'd
had
be
to go
fine.
higher than my roof line to put smoking, cooking stacks.
Not the
So that's why they
23rd.
Okay.
didn't pass the bakery.
Mm,
I think we can probably make the 23rd work. Well, let me just reconfirm.
okay.
So we can book.
Alright, so we're clear on what we'll leave.
Well,
the
just
meeting
for
here
me.
closed.
Yes.
Reconfirm.
Thanks for listening to
Thanks
us.
so much. No,
Yeah.
thank you. No,
Thank you
no,
for your
absolutely. Thanks for your help.
contribution to
Yes.
actually
You
impact
called out a few
the
things we
section
had
and
kind
we
of
had-
Well, we
glossed
thought
over.
of it, because we live there.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thanks so much.
Night, guys.
Okay, Julie, you're clear on the amendments to the plan? Okay, great.
Thank you
I
very
think we
much,
can,
Judy.
I think we could probably make the 23rd work, because I'm realizing I can't leave early anyway because, husband's a school teacher.
So you got it too?
Yours too?
Yeah. Except in the summertime.
For them. Oh yeah, that's right, you're.
It is
you don't
really
work
for
full-time.
them. No, I do. I
You
feels
do?
like I'm on double time. Are you kidding?
Oh yeah, and then you get the kids who have to run
Exactly.
underfoot too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
No, I mean, but yeah.
Okay, so I'll just put it in
What,
to be.
what grade level?
5.
So we're looking at,
Yeah.
In the city?
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
CS
possible,
9, like Sarah Anderson.
regular
Cool.
meeting.
That really is.
Yeah,
you
regular
really
meeting
wanted
on
to
the
get that
23rd.
when you got in.
PS9 in Brooklyn?
No,
Or
no, it's in the Upper West Side.
Motion to adjourn?
Sorry, yeah, are.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Again.
All right,
I
second.
thought we were adjourned,
All in
sorry.
favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Oh,
All
yes.
right.
Who
seconded?
Sue. Let's say Sue. I heard something that sounded S-like.
Um,
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.